How did ancient humans survive living next to animals that could eat them for breakfast? Not metaphorically, literally. For breakfast, let's find out. Okay, picture this. You are Grug. You wake up. No alarm clock, no coffee, no door with a lock. Just you, some scratchy animal hide that counts as a blanket, and the immediate knowledge that somewhere within walking distance, there is a large cat with teeth the size of your forearm who has also just woken up and is also thinking about breakfast. This is Tuesday for Grug. And here is the thing that modern humans forget when they think about prehistoric life. We imagine it as this peaceful nature documentary situation, rolling hills, mammoths in the distance, maybe some cave paintings, very artsy, very serene. But the reality is that Grug is sharing his neighborhood with saber-toothed cats, cave lions, cave bears, giant hyenas, dire wolves, and woolly rhinos. A cave bear, by the way, stood about 11 feet tall on its hind legs and weighed over 1,000 pounds. A grizzly bear today would look at a cave bear and feel a little insecure. These things were enormous. They were aggressive. And they absolutely thought of Grug as a light snack. So how did Grug survive? How did early humans, who are frankly not that impressive physically, manage to live alongside these nightmare creatures long enough to eventually become us? The answer is both deeply clever and also absolutely hilarious once you understand the full picture. Grug ganged up. Grug threw things from far away. And Grug discovered that fire makes every single animal on the planet lose its mind completely. Let us start with the group thing because this is genuinely fascinating. Early humans survived not because they were big, not because they were fast, not because they had claws or fangs or armor. They survived because they were annoyingly social. Human groups during the Paleolithic period, which is the long stone age stretching back roughly 2.5 million years, tended to travel in bands of around 20 to 50 individuals. And when a predator showed up, everybody grabbed whatever was nearby and started making noise. There is actually archaeological evidence of this. Researchers studying sites in Africa and Europe have found human and large predator remains in the same areas, along with stone tools, in patterns that suggest early humans were actively competing with these animals for food and territory, not just running from them. Grug was not fleeing. Grug was negotiating. With a rock. The pointy stick deserves its own appreciation moment here. The earliest known wooden spears are the Schöningen spears found in Germany, estimated to be around 300,000 years old. 300,000 years old. These were not primitive poking sticks. They were balanced, carefully crafted hunting weapons between 6 and 7 feet long, with the weight distributed near the front like a modern javelin. Whoever made these knew exactly what they were doing. Grug had engineering skills. Grug was out here doing physics. And here is the crazy part about the spear situation. Having a pointy stick is great. But having 20 people with pointy sticks is a completely different category of problem for a predator. There is actually a behavioral phenomenon observed in modern predators where they will absolutely back down from a group of humans making a coordinated threat display. Lions do it today. If a lion approaches a group of people who hold their ground, make noise, and stand together, the lion will almost always leave. It is when someone panics and runs that things go badly. Grug knew this. Grug held his ground. Grug was terrified, but he held his ground anyway, which is honestly the definition of bravery. But here is where it gets even better. Throwing. Humans are, objectively, the greatest throwing animals on Earth. This is not an exaggeration. The anatomy of our shoulder is specifically adapted for overhand throwing in a way that no other primate has. Chimpanzees throw. But they throw like someone who has never seen a baseball and is very angry about it. Humans, even untrained humans, can generate enormous rotational force and throw objects with speed and accuracy that other animals simply cannot match. Early humans absolutely weaponized this, throwing rocks, throwing spears from a distance, and later using throwing tools like the atlatl, which is basically a stick that extends your arm and makes you dramatically better at launching things at speed. An atlatl could drive a spear through thick animal hide from 50 feet away. Grug invented a ranged weapon. Grug was playing a different video game than everyone else in the food chain. The atlatl shows up in the archaeological record around 30,000 years ago, though it may be older. Indigenous cultures around the world independently developed versions of it. Every time archaeologists dig up another ancient atlatl, there is a researcher somewhere quietly thinking that Grug was actually very smart. Now, the fire. Oh, the fire. This is where it gets wonderful. Animals are, with very few exceptions, deeply afraid of fire. This is not a learned fear. It is instinctual. In the wild, fire means destruction, chaos, no escape. So when early humans figured out that carrying a torch or maintaining a fire at camp basically put up an invisible wall that predators refused to cross, it was one of the single greatest survival discoveries in human history. Evidence of controlled fire use goes back at least 400,000 years, possibly much longer, with some disputed sites suggesting fire use up to 1 million years ago. And the camps where fire was used show much less evidence of predator interference. Shocking. Turns out saber-toothed cats did not want to hang around the flickering orange death column. But here is the absurd part. Grug was not carrying a lighter. Fire was incredibly difficult to maintain. Early humans kept fire alive by carrying embers with them, essentially babysitting a small pile of glowing coals like it was the most precious thing in the world, because it was. Losing the fire was a catastrophe. There is evidence that certain groups had designated fire keepers, people whose whole job was to make sure the fire did not go out. Grug invented the world's first and most stressful job, and it gets better. Making fire from scratch, using friction methods like a bow drill or hand drill, is exhausting and difficult even for people trained to do it. It takes real skill, which means that in a prehistoric camp, the person who could reliably start a fire from nothing was almost certainly one of the most respected individuals in the group. Grug the firestarter had social status. Grug understood power. Now let us talk about what happened when things went wrong, because they did go wrong. Frequently. We know from skeletal remains that early humans had an absolutely wild number of healed injuries. There is a site in Spain, Atapuerca, where remains from hundreds of thousands of years ago show healed broken bones, healed skull trauma, evidence of serious wounds that somehow the person survived, which tells us two things. 1, life involved a lot of getting hurt. 2, someone was helping these people recover. A broken bone in prehistoric times did not automatically mean death, but it meant a significant period where you could not contribute fully to the group, and the group had to carry you, which they did. There is evidence of prehistoric care for injured and disabled individuals that genuinely surprises researchers. Grug looked after other Grugs, even when it was inconvenient, even when resources were scarce. Turns out humans being decent to each other in difficult circumstances is not a modern invention. But a bad encounter with a predator was still often fatal. We have found human bones at various prehistoric sites with the bite marks of large predators on them. We have found remains that ended up in hyena dens. We know this happened. The difference is that it did not happen as often as you might expect, because Grug and his group were genuinely very good at threat management. The fossil record of human predation deaths is actually smaller than you might imagine given the absolute nightmare lineup of animals they were coexisting with. Here is another insane thing that helped. Neanderthals, who were around from roughly 400,000 to 40,000 years ago, were extraordinarily physically powerful. Neanderthal skeletons look like someone asked a bodybuilder to become slightly more compact and then deal with an ice age. Their muscle attachment points show they were significantly stronger than modern humans. Their injuries, healed injuries again, frequently match the patterns of rodeo riders today. They were getting gored and thrown and kicked regularly. By things. Large things. Neanderthals were apparently hunting by getting extremely close and using short, Heavy thrusting spears to stab large animals directly. Not throwing, not distance, just enormous personal strength and the willingness to stand in front of a bison and make it very aware of your opinion on the matter. Grug's Neanderthal cousin was just built different. Scientists call this the Neanderthal hunting style, and it is exactly as chaotic as it sounds. Modern humans, Homo sapiens by contrast, leaned harder into the throwing and group coordination strategy, which, combined with the atlatl, gave us a meaningful advantage in not having to be within arm's reach of something that wanted to step on us. Different cousins, different approaches, both valid, one more sustainable long-term. And here is the final piece that ties the whole strategy together. Noise. Early humans made a lot of noise as a group defense, shouting, banging things together, potentially using early musical instruments as warning signals. There is evidence of bone flutes going back at least 40,000 years. Whether those were used in predator defense situations is speculation, but the general principle of organized, loud, coordinated noise as a group threat display is well documented in how we understand Paleolithic social behavior. Grug was screaming. Grug was banging rocks. Grug was making it extremely clear that approaching this particular patch of ground was going to be loud, confusing, fiery, and possibly involve a spear to the face. And it worked. We are here. The saber-toothed cats are not. Next time you feel a little nervous walking to your car at night, take a moment to appreciate that Grug walked to his car every night, except his car was a dark forest, and there were wolves everywhere, and he did not even have shoes. And he made it. He made it for hundreds of thousands of years. He defended his family with a stick and a fire and the sheer stubbornness of not running away. And eventually his great-great-great-great-great times 1,000 grandchild became you, sitting here watching a video about it. Grug would be confused by your phone, but he would be very proud of how far you made it. If you want to keep hanging out with Grug and learning how ancient humans actually did things, including some genuinely unbelievable stuff about how they handled medicine, food, shelter, and social situations that makes this look simple by comparison, there is a lot more where this came from. Grug has many things to explain. Grug is very busy. Stick around.